Hey everyone, today we're going to deconstruct this absolutely stunning 90-second animation called The Liquid Architect. And trust me, it completely flips the script on what a building can even be. It imagines a world where our structures aren't just static, but they're alive, they're breathing, constantly transforming. So let's get right into it. And this, right here, is the question at the very heart of this piece. I mean, what if buildings could change just like a dream? Seriously, imagine walking through a grand cathedral that feels totally solid 1 second and then flows like water the next. That's the kind of surreal world we're about to dive into. One where, the normal rules of physics just don't apply.
Okay, so before we actually break down the animation frame by frame, we've got to get a handle on the two big ideas it's built on. You can kind of think of these as the creative blueprint, the secret sauce that makes the whole thing work so well.
So, the first big concept is something called architectural surrealism. And look, this is not about drawing up plans for a new skyscraper. Not at all. It's really about exploring these impossible spaces. It's where artists take things we all recognize, pillars, walls, entire cities, and then just make them behave in these totally illogical, dreamlike ways. And the second key idea is morphing environments. Now, this is the technique that really brings all that surrealism to life. So if architectural surrealism is the what, the big idea, then morphing environments are the how. It's the engine, right? It's what allows a space to just fluidly transform from one impossible state to another, happening right there in front of you. All right, so now that we've got those two ideas in our back pocket, let's actually step inside the Liquid Architect. We're going to break down this whole 90-second journey piece by piece and see exactly how it uses these wild concepts to create something so mesmerizing. So this whole animation basically unfolds in 4 parts. We've got the entry, then the transformation, it hits a visual peak, and then it ends with the loop, which, well, it brings us right back to the start. Let's kick things off with phase 1. Okay, so the piece opens with something we all recognize as totally solid, right? Permanent, a marble pillar. But then, something impossible happens. It starts to ripple, almost like the stone itself is turning into water. And boom, right away, all our expectations are just shattered. It perfectly sets the surreal tone for everything that's about to happen. Then, as the camera pulls back, you see the full picture. We realize we're standing inside this huge, grand cathedral. But the walls, they aren't made of cold stone. No, they're made of this shimmering, flowing, iridescent silk. It's just this amazing mix of sacred, rigid geometry with the super soft, organic feel of fabric. Okay, and this is the turning point. Right around the 20-second mark, that whole silky, organic world just dissolves. It literally shatters into thousands of tiny, floating digital particles. It creates this awesome glitch effect, It's like the dream is literally becoming a digital signal. But here's the thing. This chaos, it's creative. Those particles, they don't just vanish. They start to reorganize. And out of all that digital static, this massive, futuristic cityscape just emerges, pulsing with all this vibrant neon light. I mean, we just saw a space morph from something ancient and organic into a purely digital metropolis. Wild. And this right here, this is the visual peak of the whole thing. The city doesn't just hang there, it starts to fold in on itself, multiplying and creating this absolutely insane, symmetrical, kaleidoscopic effect. The colors just explode, shifting from these cool blues to brilliant magentas and golds. It's designed to be a total sensory overload. So that massive shift in texture we just saw, that's really the whole point of this journey. The artist is doing this on purpose, They're playing with our perception by smashing together two completely different aesthetic worlds. And really, this contrast is everything. On one hand, you've got the organic, natural world, hard marble, flowing water, soft silk. But then on the other hand, you have the language of tech, these little digital particles, that glowing neon, the sharp, jagged feel of a glitch. The whole animation is really a conversation between these two realities. And that brings us to the final and, maybe the most important part of the whole animation. See, it doesn't just end. It resolves. The entire structure of this thing is a loop, and believe me, that choice is absolutely packed with meaning. Yeah, the creators themselves say that the animation resolves back into the texture of the marble pillar, creating a seamless loop. So after all that chaotic, kaleidoscopic craziness, it all just boils down to a single point of light, which then becomes the very same marble we started with. The end just flows perfectly back into the beginning. So, why do that? What's the point?
Well, the loop isn't just some clever editing trick, right? It's the core message. It's suggesting this endless cycle of creation where the physical world can dissolve and become virtual and then turn right back into something physical again. It's saying, hey, these two worlds, they're not separate. They're totally connected. And maybe the biggest idea here is that reality itself is becoming way more fluid, and that any space, real or digital, is really just a canvas for our imagination.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. As our tools for creating digital worlds get more and more powerful, what does that actually mean for the physical world we build around us? This piece makes you wonder, right? Is the next great cathedral going to be one we can actually walk through, or one we'll only ever experience on a screen? I mean, is the future of architecture going to be built with stone and steel, or with pixels and code? Something to think about.